Hey guys, it's Madison and welcome to this rather spontaneous Thursday night vlog. A week or so ago, I downloaded a new app called, I think, Todai Japanese, depending on if it's pronounced in the Japanese style or the English style, Today Japanese. But yeah, back when I first downloaded it, I tested out its little article reading functionality for Japanese and was kind of meh on the capabilities there, but I noticed that the app also includes some free JLPT tests as well, and I kind of got the idea to possibly test my current Japanese ability using these tests on this app. So that is what we're doing tonight. The reason why I said this vlog is kind of spontaneous is because, like I said, it's Thursday night, and I mean it is like nighttime. It is almost 11 p.m. already, and I'm deciding to start this standardized test right now, which is probably a very questionable decision, but I don't have school tomorrow, so I have the day off. It is my weekend already, so I figure what's the harm in staying up a little bit late and exploring this app and this test now in the middle of the night on Thursday. So before I totally jump into taking this test, let's go ahead and talk about why I even want to in the first place. Where's my Japanese? Why do I care about the JLPT at all? And first of all, I don't really care about the JLPT, honestly. I've never really felt the need to actually take the test and test my Japanese level, nor do I have the goal to get to N1 one day. Really, it's just kind of a fun side hobby that I study on occasion when I feel inspired to, not really a legitimate goal to actually reach fluency necessarily one day in Japanese. But like I mentioned in my recap of last year as well as my goals for this year, my Japanese is extremely rusty right now. I never really got super advanced or anything in the first place. I think maybe I was upper beginner, lower intermediate. Probably upper beginner is more accurate, or even like mid beginner. I don't even know, really, honestly. But my Japanese was definitely at its strongest when I was doing my reading everyday challenge using Saturday Reader, which I have a video on if you're curious about that. But that was like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago at this point. And so it's been a while since I was getting exposed to Japanese every single day. And since then, it's been very, very, very spotty studying of Japanese. And so I've forgotten a lot of the stuff that I learned during that almost 5-month period of time. And so I'm kind of curious with this current state of my very, very, very rusty Japanese that at its best was only possibly upper beginner, kind of lower intermediate level. Can I pass the lowest level of the JLPT with this current rusty state of my Japanese? And thus, that is why I am choosing to take this test here tonight. I will say though, as one more kind of caveat before I jump into this test tonight, that I am definitely a rusty beginner with a huge asterisk, and that is the fact that I do have experience with both Korean as an advanced learner and also Mandarin Chinese as an intermediate learner of sorts. And so because of that, I definitely have huge advantages in Japanese compared to the average American learner of Japanese who doesn't have experience with those languages, because Korean grammar and Japanese grammar are extremely, extremely similar. And then also Japanese uses a lot of kanji, which are Chinese characters. And so my rough intermediate knowledge of Mandarin characters will be helpful to some degree, as well as my pretty advanced knowledge of Korean grammar in kind of helping me decipher things that otherwise I might not be able to decipher in Japanese. And so, like I said, I'm a very, very, very rusty beginner in Japanese, but I do have those advantages kind of helping me be boosted up possibly to above my actual level. So that could also give me an advantage during this test. We shall see. But yeah, caveats aside, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this test now. Apparently there are 3 sections of the test. Let me go ahead and pull it up on the app. So yeah, I'll go ahead and put a screenshot of my current screen that I'm seeing here on the app, but apparently, like I said, there's 3 sections. There's a vocab section that's 25 minutes long, a grammar section that's 50 minutes long. That is wild to me. Why is that so long? Is that also reading, perhaps? Because there's no reading section here, or is that vocab? I don't know, we'll see. And then there's a listening section that is 30 minutes long. Oh wait, no, those are points. That's points, just kidding. Or is it minutes? Wait. I'm pretty sure it's minutes. Like I said, my Japanese is very rusty. This is evidence of that fact, but I'm pretty sure it's the time because the numbers there added up do equal the amount of time that the test contains. So yeah, we shall see. But apparently there is a pass score of 80. I'm not sure what the total number of points possible are. Is it 100 perhaps? I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this. I will say, like I said, I've never cared about taking this test before, and so I have no idea what the structure of this is like, obviously, as you saw my confusion over the different sections. So I have no idea going into this what kind of questions there are and that kind of stuff. So normally when I actually take a standardized test, I like to be very comfortable with the layout of the test and the kinds of questions and that kind of thing. But this time I'm going in totally blind, so this is going to be a very interesting experience all the way around. So all those things out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and actually start this test now. My hope is to go ahead and do the entire thing tonight. I'm not sure if I will even be able to take a pause or not in the middle of the sections, or if there is a timer that is just, once it starts, it starts. But because it is already now 11 o'clock at night, if I do suddenly get extremely tired during the middle of this test, I might pause in between sections and finish it in the morning, but we shall see how things go. So let's go ahead and start the test. Okay. 日本語の先生が好きです。先生、今日学校は休み。電話？電車？ Okay, so far part 1, super easy. Hopefully it's all this easy. Let's see. どう書きますか? Oh, now I have to go backwards. Okay. Alrighty. 夏休みは友達と山へ行きます。6万円 Oh, 6万円 Wait, nope. Part 2, also not too bad. Let's see. Oh gosh. How do you wear a hat? かかっています。かぶって。I think it's かぶって。gosh, カタカナ。ジョギングをして、oh gosh, タクシーを借りたいです。I don't know what this means. That feels right. Now what do I do? Save? Okay. I go to grammar? Alright. How long is this? Oh my. Okay, so this section is very long. Oh my gosh. Alright, here we go. Okay, so I just finished the grammar section. It's kind of a grammar and reading section like I suspected. It took a while, but I still have over an hour left of time. I'm gonna go ahead and save my progress. But I think I am going to go ahead and finish the entire test tonight. I'm pretty sure the listening won't be an entire hour. I think it was like 30 minutes long. So I think I'm making really good pace, which is hopefully a good sign for my actual score, but let's see how this goes. Yeah, 30 minutes long of listening. Here we go.
一番いいものを一つ選んでください。
So far it seems very slow. And now there's randomly like a break in the middle of listening. Okay. Okay, so I just finished. It is now after midnight, but I finished with just around 30 minutes to spare, so definitely did not require the whole time. Honestly, there are parts that were easier than I thought they'd be, like a lot easier than I thought they'd be, and there are parts that were unexpectedly more difficult. Like for example, I didn't think about the fact that because it is N5 that a lot of the words would not be written in kanji but actually be written in hiragana, which is actually sometimes more difficult for me to parse than in kanji, so I had to kind of get used to that. But yeah, the vocab section was very easy in my opinion. The grammar section, kind of, some parts were pretty easy, some parts I was kind of just going on feeling, but again, I do have kind of my Korean instincts helping me out there, so we'll see how I did there. Definitely harder than the vocab. And then listening I thought was mostly pretty easy. I will say, because I am now pretty tired, at the end there are some questions that have like no words. It's just like you listen to the question, then you listen to all the options and choose the option. There were a few times where I kind of zoned out for a second and didn't hear the question. So I had to kind of guess just because I didn't know what the question was, so I didn't know what to look for in the answer. So there were a few where I kind of had to guess just because I wasn't even paying attention. So we shall see how I do. I will say in the listening overall, it felt like they were talking so slowly. So I guess that is a good sign as well for me doing well, hopefully. The nice thing about it being so slow feeling in my head is that it gave me a lot of extra time to kind of think and process things and not get too overwhelmed with constant speech being bombarded at my brain. So I am now going to submit my score and see how we did. I like the way they phrase this. Do you want to submit it? ... question mark. Yes, I do. Okay, so I did pass. I got 38 of 40 on vocab and grammar. Okay, this is interesting because the way that the app introduced this at first was there were 3 sections: vocab, and then grammar, and then listening. Here it says vocab, grammar, and then reading, and then listening. So I'm not sure that is a direct correlation. I will say that in the grammar section, according to this app, there were a lot of grammar questions. Maybe there's some overlap in the stuff. But yeah, reading is the weakest, which if that's that second section, that was where I did find myself guessing the most, so that makes sense. Listening was pretty good as well, so I did pass. I will say it's also confusing because earlier it said the passing score was 80, and here it says I got a 160 out of 180. So what does that mean? That's really confusing. But yeah, let me see. I guess I can see the answers, but I can't know the detailed explanations unless I upgrade. But it looks like I only got 1 incorrect in the first section, the word or vocab section. I got 5 wrong in the grammar/reading section and 3 wrong in the listening section. I don't know how to get back to my original score sheet, but I was screenshotting it, so thankfully I should have access to it still. But okay, that's interesting. I don't think I would have guessed that I did the worst in reading. Or would I have guessed that? I guess what I was thinking would happen is that listening would be weak for me because I have definitely done way more reading practice in my language learning journey than I have done listening practice, just because I kind of struggle to find Japanese content, like dramas and shows that I like, but I have been like doing a lot of like graded reader activities on different apps and stuff, so I thought listening would be a struggle, but it was so slow that I didn't find it to be much of an issue, and especially since my ears are already kind of primed for Korean sentence structure and it is so similar, I guess it wasn't that difficult for me to kind of listen with my Korean brain and just change out the words. And I found that in the reading section, there was a lot more unfamiliar vocab to me compared to the other sections where there really wasn't almost any unfamiliar words. So I'm not going to go and like break down every single question right now because I don't have any more mental capacity to take any of this in, honestly. But I did indeed pass the N5, at least this, version of the test. I'm not sure if this is an actual pass test or just some version of it according to this one app, so I'm not sure how accurate this is, but yeah, I was actually quite surprised. I thought it'd be more of a challenge, honestly, but I am pretty happy that I did manage to pass it. I'd actually be kind of curious to take the N4 version of this just to see how I do and if I can pass or even get close to passing on the N4, because this one did feel relatively easy for me. So actually, around 24 hours after taking that first N5 exam, I did in fact attempt to take the N4, and I will show those results now. So here they are. Obviously you can see that once again I passed, although obviously with not quite as high of a percentage of questions correct, but I actually was kind of surprised that I did in fact pass, and actually with relative ease, I would say. Like I am a lot of points above the required number of points, which is 90. And by the way, I don't know why I was so confused the first time that I took the test with the scoring guidelines. I think because it said passing score of 80 at the very beginning, I was expecting it to be 80 out of 100. And so when the total points was 180, I thought, oh, surely the passing score isn't 80 out of 180, but it was. And so I was just kind of perplexed by that for some reason. But for the N5, it was 80 out of 180. For the N4, it's a minimum passing score of 90 out of 180, and I got a 132 total. So it definitely went over the requirement with relative ease. They also had some requirements of like you have to get at least so many points in each category, and apparently I also got that as well. It was a little confusing because the way they say it online, they combine the vocab and grammar along with the reading, but I think altogether those two categories have to have 38 points, and I'm definitely well above that in those two categories combined. So yeah, it was really interesting to me that in the first test, the N5 test, my reading score was the lowest score out of the 3 categories, if I recall correctly. But here, it was actually the highest score out of all the categories. So interesting little note there. Definitely as I was taking this test, it felt much harder to me. There were a lot more sentences where I didn't know the majority of the words in the sentence, so I literally had no idea what the sentence was talking about, so I had to basically just guess. And that scenario didn't happen hardly at all in the N5 test. I knew most of, or at least, part of almost all the sentences there, and didn't really have a lot of moments where I was totally clueless about a sentence. But yeah, taking the N4 definitely was a lot more like mentally tiring than the N5, so it definitely was a big step up in level. But I was actually quite surprised again that I managed to pass this with relative ease. I still feel very beginner in Japanese, but maybe I'm not actually beginner level, or maybe I'm like a false beginner because, again, of my previous experience with other languages that makes this a little bit more easy to me. I still feel like if I were to have like an actual conversation with a Japanese person, I would be totally lost the entire time. Or even like when I'm reading the lower level stories on Satori Reader, there's so much kanji that I just don't know, or just vocab in general, honestly. And so I don't know, it's interesting because I still feel like I'm not good at Japanese, but I've managed to pass the first 2 levels out of 5. So maybe I am more of a beginner. And sorry, my rice cooker's going, so if it's making noises, just ignore that. But yeah, I guess maybe I am upper beginner or lower intermediate, despite feeling like I'm very incompetent in this language. I'd actually be curious, since I did, again, pass this N4 with a decent amount of buffer, if I actually could pass or get close to passing the N3 as well, which would be absolutely wild. I have a feeling that the N3 would be too much for me, and I'm not going to do it in this video because taking these 2 tests in the last 2 days was already a bit of a mental overload of sorts, especially last night with this more difficult, mentally draining test. So I'm not going to take it in the next few days for sure. Maybe next week I'll test it out and just see, can I get N3 with my rusty Japanese? If so, I guess I have to admit that I'm not a true beginner. Again, I just feel so incompetent, but apparently I can pass the N4 with lots of buffer. Although, it didn't feel like I was breezing through the exam. I felt like a lot more lost on a lot more questions. So I actually was thinking I might pass, but just barely. But then again, I did not pass just barely. So I don't know. I am kind of glad that I took this because I think one of the biggest reasons I wanted to take this exam is because I never really know how to classify my level in Japanese. And now at least I have some context for where I am on this, standardized scale, even though it is, again, one arbitrary scale out of many options. It is a kind of standardized scale that I can grade myself according to. So yeah, just very interesting overall. I am glad that I did this, and I think I actually might incorporate more JLPT related study stuff in the future. Maybe not necessarily tests all the time, but I do occasionally like to use standardized tests like this to study for my languages, just because I think it's kind of not necessarily a game, that sounds too fun, but kind of a challenge of sorts to kind of like test yourself and see how well you can do. And also, like, the listening and reading and all that is on a wide variety of topics, which also can help kind of expose me to vocab and readings on things that I wouldn't normally necessarily be exposed to in my everyday studying life. So yeah, I think I might incorporate this more into the future. Like I said, I'm still up in the air about taking the N3. Part of me is really curious, but the other part is kind of over the test, at least for the next week or 2. In the meantime, I might slowly kind of go back through these tests and actually study from them to learn from the mistakes that I did make and the vocab and grammar that I did not know. So that is my project, I guess, for the next few weeks. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video and kind of exploring the JLPT alongside me. If you're watching this close in time to the posting of this video, don't forget that this upcoming week is the 40-hour 7-day language challenge that I'm hosting. So check out my community page if you want to kind of participate alongside me and a lot of my viewers with that. But yeah, that is it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one. And until then, annyeong.